Hi, welcome to our webinar. I'm Jeff from the Power BI User Group Wellington, and I'm here with Andrej from Zebra BI, and we've also got Phil Seamark from Microsoft, who also is in Upper Hutt with me, and Jonathan Kapoor, who also co-runs the Power BI User Group.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Starting a couple of minutes early. Just to say hi to everybody. Thrilled to have everybody from both the user group and the other user groups in our and good time zones. Log in and hear Andrej. One of the reasons why I opened this up is it's so hard to get good content down here in our crappy little time zone, Andrej, that I figured if we can get you up in the morning to speak to us and the Australians and the Canadians, it how can piggyback.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Also want to point out I'm wearing the merchandise from Andrej's company, a Zebra BI t-shirt. I was supposed to give it away, but I never did. It's the coolest little logo out there apart from the Power BI one.
Yeah, great. Maybe I think we should figure out a way how to, make a small contest or something, for you to finally hand out those t-shirts that you're hiding in your closet.
Yes. And you saw the t-shirt I did the other day. I should have had a screenshot of that ready to go to chuck up there.
Actually, have you seen that you're a finalist in the t-shirt competition?
I have.
Wow.
I have.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool. Sorry, I just thought I'd...
I'm a slow second though, Phil.
Do you need more votes?
Well, it's too late. I think voting's closed. But
okay.
Yeah.
We could have canvassed for some here. So
the person, I forget who's first, but they're a hell of a lot more artistic than me. So
right. Well done for being a finalist.
So Andrej, I'll stop talking. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm a big fan of Andrej and Zebra BI. I met Andrej once for about 5 minutes over in Melbourne. Just after the first day of the Melbourne Business Application Summit, and his presentation was the next day, and I said to him, I'm so thrilled I'm going to see you present. I'm so keen on data viz, and I don't see enough really strong data viz content in the Power BI community. I can't wait till tomorrow to see your presentation, but unfortunately I had to fly home early, so after all that I missed it. So I finally get to see you in action here now, Andrej, live. And I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Hey, and everyone
Thanks,
in the audience, if you have a question during the session, Jeffrey and I will be monitoring the chat window and the question window. If it's appropriate, we will interrupt Andrej and ask him, but otherwise we'll probably leave it to the end where we will have we'll definitely set aside some time to do Q&A.
All right, perfect. This brings us to the agenda for today. So the intro, that's done. We're ahead of time actually for a few minutes. So my session was supposed to take 60 minutes. I'll try to keep it short. So I guess I'll finish before that, and then the Q&A at the end. But feel free to type away your questions during the session as well. So Phil will decide whether to interrupt me or not. So just feel free and just interrupt me and just read out the question, please, for me. And we'll try to make this as interactive as possible, as close to a live event as possible. And so who is this guy? So I'm Andrej. Don't try to pronounce my last name. It's actually pronounced Lapajne. So I come from Slovenia, not Slovakia, Jeff. It's a difference. But more importantly, I'm specialized especially in data visualization. I would say this is my #1 field. So I've been studying data viz for more than 20 years, I guess. And during my career, we started as a consultancy. I was implementing BI systems, so planning systems, reporting systems, dashboards, and I've been using practically every BI tool out there. I was a Tableau reseller, one of the first ones in Europe, actually, back in 2007. But that was for a short period actually, because at that time I think it was a little bit ahead of time, I guess, for the market. So I couldn't really sell any licenses at that point. And but I did some cool projects with Tableau, which was at that point I think the only real real tool that had a good database foundation. So it's quite keen on that. But then our clients mostly at that point they just wanted everything to be done in Excel, right? So I specialized for Excel, and I became a sort of a Excel geek, mostly hacking the charting component, and doing a lot of stuff with that, and I've been using other platforms like Business Objects and ProClarity and lots of multidimensional all-up systems and so on. So I'm a kind of a old school multidimensional guy. But of course, in the last few years, I just switched to Power BI full on, and so yeah, here I am in the Power BI user group. Now, when discussing dashboards, for me it boils down to two words: actionable and understandable. Well, first understandable and then actionable. And just to illustrate what I mean by that, in Power BI dashboards, I mean, this could be a typical Power BI dashboard, so quite colorful, lots of different types of charts, and it's probably a nice, let me change my pointer to a laser pointer, right? So it's some kind of a sales dashboard for a certain period, right? And it has everything. I mean, it has an attempt at the geographical presentation here. It has a nice donut chart here, and area charts, and a combo chart here with the columns and a line chart, and the tree map, and some stacked columns and so on. So and some buttons and so on. But if this is now a sales performance dashboard for a certain period, right, and then you deliver this to your manager, to your boss, right, he will ask himself, all right, is my sales performance good or bad? It's kind of a really simple, trivial question. Is my performance good or bad? How can you tell this from this picture? I think it's quite hard, right? It's quite hard. You don't really know. I mean, you have all the breakdowns by subcategory, by product category, by customer segment, you have the time trends and so on. And even the time trends, I mean, all right, this line goes like a little bit up, right? But is this good or bad? I still don't know, because I don't have a comparison. It could be just a normal seasonality, right? It could be exactly the same as it was last year. It could be, it could be 2 times lower than last year actually, or it could be 30% below the plan, or it could be right on target, or it could be 10% above the plan, and so on. So so this is a problem in a dashboard like this, right? It's not, first of all, it's not really understandable, I would say, but it's definitely not actionable, because I don't even know whether this is, the situation is good or bad here. And then how good, how bad? Is it, 30% above the plan? Is it right on target? Is it 3% above the plan? And so on. So I don't have an idea how good, how bad is my performance. And then why, why I have all the breakdowns by all of the dimensions in my Power BI model, right? But how do these elements from the different dimensions actually contribute to to this change? I have no idea, so I cannot really tell why, and that's obviously a problem, at least for me, right? And what are we going to do about it? I don't know. if you can't have an intelligent conversation and an insight and analysis of this data, how can we plan certain actions, right? And that's, you know, what dashboards and reports should be all about, right? So it's not actionable and not even understandable. And most of the dashboards that I have seen, I would say, you know, just fall somehow into this category of not being actionable. Again, here, is my performance good or bad, you know? And then you see this line chart, and it looks like, whoa, we have a drop off here, so everything is going down, right? But then when you actually read all the labels and, you know, make your way through all the data categories and titles and labels and legends and so on, then you understand, all right, this is not actually time. These are business units, right? So we have another problem here, which is the wrong chart type. So don't use line charts to present breakdowns by something else than time, right? So reserve line charts only to show the trends, right? The time. If it's a breakdown by a business unit, you know, don't use this chart. You will use something else, right? Which of course I'll try to explain later. And the tree maps here. So what this visualization does is it gives me an idea of the, you know, of the proportions of the breakdown. Like just roughly, I understand that this Primus product category here, this product is, you know, more than half of the revenue, right? And everything else is like less than half. I don't know exactly how much, and again, I don't know, I have no idea about the growth rates of this product category and so on. So what we are basically doing here is we are showing, we are presenting 1, 2, 3 product categories and another one that we don't know which it is actually, and a blank category, right? So it's like 4 or 5 numbers, and we have taken, you know, the real estate of almost a quarter of this dashboard. So a quarter of a dashboard for just 4 numbers or 5 numbers, that's not a good idea. So we need better information density. In this exact same space, you could present, you know, probably 20 products with their growth rates and comparison to plan, and not just revenue, maybe revenue and the gross margin, all in the same space, right? So the space is important. How do you use it? Do you use it to increase the information on a dashboard or not? Or is it, you know, decoration? So and again, you know, in this chart, in this report here, I have the labels that are, you know, presented, displayed diagonally. So I need to tilt my head to when I try to read this, and then my neck starts to hurt. And this is also not the best practice. So I mean, if you hate your boss, you know, you can do things like this, but it's not a good practice in data visualization.
Do you have licorice all sorts of Slovenia, Andrej? Those graphs, I call them licorice all sorts graphs.
How do you call them? Liquid?
Licorice all sorts.
Licorice all sorts. Yeah. All right.
No,
great.
If it looks like candy, it's not great, right?
All right. I agree completely. So I'll put this into my vocabulary. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. So now I have a different type of data visualization here. I mean, these are quite basic bar charts here. Most of it some column charts and so on. But if I ask the same 4 questions, right? Is my performance here good or bad? Right, so this is like, okay, January to August 2018. Is this good or bad? Yeah, it's not very good. I mean, we're 1.1 million below the plan. So I have some red color here. This is sales versus plan. So it was 22.1 million sales, but it's minus 1.1 million. So it's below the plan. There's a little red alert here. And then how good, how bad? I understand completely. So minus 1.1 million below the plan, right? And this little rectangle here is of course scaled exactly to the volume, to the sales volume, right? So I understand that, okay, it's a little bit, it's something, right? And then why I have a breakdown here by product, by some product categories, and actually in two different store chains. So this is a retail operation here, a dashboard for a retail store that has two separate chains. And you see, I have two separate chains. I have product categories within those chains. This here is the sales, the actual data for the sales. It's sorted, so I understand which categories are, the most important ones, but also on top of that, I do have, the comparison. I have a comparison to plan, so this is the absolute variance to plan. This is the relative variance to plan, so in percent, as a percentage here. And yeah, why? All right. This thing here sticks out, right? So understand that the problem is the women's clothing category, right? All right, this is not our data, so cherchez la femme. It's a demo, but this is the issue obviously here. And also in the other store chain, we see that there are certain product categories, again, the women's clothing not performing as planned, right? So I understand why, understand which product categories, and not just, which product categories are on target or above the target or below the target, but also I have a simple comparison. So I know exactly how much, what is the extent of the contribution of this product to my final result here. How important is this variance, right? And then what are we going to do about it? Well, at this point, I don't know, right? But if you now added some really cool and nice interactive Power BI features, like for example, some well-designed report page tooltips, or ability to drill through to the women's category, women's clothing category in this particular chain retail operation, right? I would understand exactly, which products within this women's category and, which store outlets and so on. And then, we can, when we understand it fully, we can act upon it, make a decision, try to fix something. And yeah, hopefully the next month when I get the new values, this will get rid of this red color. Right. So, and this is the basic idea how I believe we can make our dashboards understandable and actionable. All right. So, to illustrate my point with a Power BI example, I'll just switch. I just switched to Power BI. So I'm in Power BI now. And just put this to full screen, into full screen, and yeah. So this is a sales dashboard in Power BI, which looks quite simple in the beginning, because this is a landing page where the users will land. This is the first page in my sales dashboard. It has some this is the revenue here. So it's the revenue, for a certain month, and I can switch between year-to-date results and monthly results. I can change the month and so on. I can also change the you know, the measure to gross profit, and then the whole page, all the visuals on the page will switch to gross profit. So understand, all right, for the revenue, we are more or less on the plan. You see this 0.6%, so more or less right on the target. But if I switch to gross profit, I understand, all right, compared to previous year, it was good, but you know, the plan was quite ambitious, and we are 4.1% below the plan, so that's not good, but the revenue is okay, right? And then, so this is just a simple, you know, simple presentation of my main KPIs here. What is the performance? And this is on top left of my dashboard, right? And then around it, I have a few more things that will try to explain, give the context to those numbers, right? So if this plan was, you know, 0.6%, if my revenue is 0.6% above the plan, how did we do this in this particular period, right? Yeah, well, okay, if I, you know, now I have those breakdowns, so breakdown by group, you know, certain, you know, baby care, it's a little slightly below the plan. Actually, the mobile business unit is more had the poorest performance here, but then the other business units, you know, contributed in a better way to this final result here, which is 0.66%, right? So I have a breakdown by business unit, but this is just the landing page, right? So the landing page of a dashboard should explain the most important things, right? To give you the first impression and the first questions why. So I don't have all of the business units here. You know, you might have you know, 100 business units or products or you know, 1,000 clients and so on. You would not put all of them to the first page, right? So that's why I'm using a few things here. So I have just my top business units here, you know, just maybe top 7 or top 5 or something, but everything else is summed up into this others category, and then I have the total, right? So that's why, you know, that's how I'm presenting the most important business units only, and then the others. But then, of course, I can drill into detail to understand the full situation regarding business units in several different ways, right? Here again, with the products, I might have 1,000 products that I'm selling, but I decided to actually show the top and bottom most important products by the variance. So, you know, that I understand, all right, exactly this product, you know, was most above the plan, and then there are certain products that are quite below the plan, and again, everything else is summed into this others category automatically, and this is then the explanation, you know, how did we achieve this +5, you know, million or +5,000. This is in K, so +5,000 dollars or euros or something, right? And all right, so a dashboard like this should have, I think, some kind of an onboarding feature. So for example, a really nice way how you can do this, you know, to have this what I call info overlay or a help overlay. So, you know, there should be some kind of a help button somewhere, especially in the landing page of a dashboard. So when the user click, you know, he gets really nice explanation on how to use the dashboards and reports that you're building in Power BI. So make sure that you do this properly, because many consumers, they are not, you know, they're not professionals. They are not necessarily acquainted with all the crazy features of Power BI. So you need to make sure that, you know, you need to have the end user always in mind. You know, who are those persons? They might be complete beginners in Power BI, and they even don't have the, you know, they even have problems with consuming the reports, right? So this is a nice way how to do such onboarding help overlays. I actually managed to squeeze in animated GIFs here, so it looks like a video, but it's actually an animated GIF, right? And then you can do it like in a tutorial way, so people will just browse through certain features of the dashboard, like how to use the drill throughs, how to use the page tooltips, and so on, right? So this is the landing page, and then when I see the results, I now access access the other pages through the content. This is also very important because you want to save the real estate of your screen. I don't want to put all of those slicers here and slicers on the top and loads of buttons everywhere. But then then I consumed all the real estate of my dashboard here, all of the pixels or half of the pixels, right? And then I need to squeeze all of my charts. So the data is always important. So this is what I call a full screen, full content principle, right? So use your use the space for content, use the space for information. So this is the information density principle, right? So instead of having all of those buttons everywhere and all of those slicers, just put charts, put as many charts as you can, but then try to provide the navigation and the interaction through the content, right? So the business units are here, so you need to have some sort of way how to go to the business units. One trick is to put like buttons on top of titles or something like that. So this is what I've used here. So I can simply now click, and now I will arrive at a detailed report page with all of the business units here. And this is now the place where you can just go crazy with the details, provide 3 or 4 levels of drill down drill down in hierarchical tables like this. Put the charts on top of that, whichever chart works best for you, and so on. Provide more, probably provide more options to slice and filter the data, and so on. And then add maybe different views, like this is a kind of a page navigation here. This is all for the sales business units, right? So I can just click here in a really nice way, which is accessible. This will work also in a on a tablet or something, because the button is big enough to click on it, right? So and these are detailed pages. Now this one has this is more of a table-like, what I call a structure report, right? But which can be even more detailed. So in this case, this is the most detailed one. It has the revenue, and then for the month of October, for example, and the year-to-date results. So you have both monthly and year-to-date results in one view without the need of switching between them, right? But then I also have enough space so I can present gross profit, right? And this is quite a big font. It's not font size 8 or something. It's probably font size 14 or something, right? And the other thing, at the end, you can have high density presentations of your trends, right? So these are the I would say two types of reports, like a structure report page here, which is like a breakdown by product or something, and then on the other hand, don't forget to include a presentation of the trends, because this will present a larger time frame, and this gives additional context to the information, right? because it's important, you know, I see these are all of my business units here, and now I understand, all right, my baby care business unit is the biggest one, the most important one. Okay, the wearables are also quite important, a little bit less, right? And both of them have really nice growth rates, right? So this is 15.7% here, above previous year, so that's quite good growth here from the previous year. But I also understand, you know, the trends for each month, right? Is it going up, or was it going a little bit up and down, but more or less the same, or is it just going down like this one? So this one is obviously problematic, but you do understand that even though that, you know, the trends are going down, right? This is a much smaller business unit, so the impact on the total business is much smaller, right? So this is why all of these charts here have the same y-axis of the chart, right? So they are scaled. Okay, so there's a scaling concept here, and this presentation here is called the small multiples. Okay, which is one of my favorite DataViz methods, and you'll see a lot of small multiples today, I guess. Okay.
I'm sure you're going to point this out, Andre, but these are Zebra BI custom visuals, so these aren't available out of the box. This is what your team of people have been working on.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So yeah, this particular view, it's almost, I would say it's probably impossible. I mean, you can do it with a lot of, yeah, well, first of all, these are the Zebra BI visuals, which produce the small multiples out of the box. So this is just one visual that renders everything, right, automatically, and it takes care of scaling and so on, and you can switch the chart even in the view mode. So right now I'm in the view mode, right? And you can just switch between different types of charts as a viewer, and you will see, you know, the data in slightly different ways. And yeah, this is all done by our Zebra BI visuals. At the moment, there's really no native support in Power BI for small multiples. You can sort of do a simple small multiple by using several charts. So if you just put a lot of charts into your page, but then develop some slightly complicated DAGs to make sure that, you know, the charts, all of the charts share the same y-axis, which is a major problem. So the scaling,
it's not slightly tricky. It's very tricky. It's a head turner. I'm the only person I know that's done it. And
I think you're actually really the only guy who attempted this, and yeah, you can share your experience. Maybe I mean, as far as I know, it took you quite a lot of time to actually do it. So don't do this at home. I'm sure that Microsoft will add some support for small multiples in the future. There are some plans for this, but this is actually, I think, the hardest thing in data visualization for so the scaling and the small multiples, right? It's quite hard, but yeah, this is what we are actually specialized in. So our Zebra BI visuals do a really good job at that. So I'll do a short demo at the end. I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but I will show you how to do this, right? And so most of the visuals that you see here are actually the Zebra BI visuals. So this is also one thing here. It's called a integrated variance chart. So it presents, for example, the sales and the variance to plan, for example, or the variance to previous year. Actually, this is to previous year in the same chart. So it's just an integrated column inside the column chart. So it's kind of a advanced column chart, right? So you see, just to give you an idea how I feel that a good dashboard could look like, right? And then here I have, I show you the report page tooltips. Don't forget about the report page tooltips. Don't just leave the basic tooltip out there just because you're lazy. We are all lazy, but the users need more information, right? So if I see that there's a variance here, and this one is the most problematic, right? I will ask myself why. What contributed the most to this negative variance here? And the best way to provide a really quick answer to that is the report page tooltip, and it's a native Power BI thing. Everybody can do it right now in their dashboard. So make sure if you're not using the report page tooltips, do start using them, right? So in my case here, you see inside the tooltip, you see an additional breakdown by another category that provides the details. So if it was -30 here for the mobile business unit, in the tooltip, I see the top countries that contributed to this $-30,000 negative variance, right? And I see that, Germany and United States, they actually were positive, contributed positively, but then I have countries like Canada and Austria that had a really negative impact here. And again, you see, the tooltip is small, so don't try to jam a lot of information into the tooltip. Make sure you filter out the elements that are most important and will best explain the row or the a column in your base visual here. So again, this is a form of a top and bottom chart with an additional row for others. Again, so you see that the top N function plus others, I think is quite important for the dashboards as well. So all right, similarly, you can click here to get a better insight into your KPIs. So I had a really simple presentation in my landing page, but when I click, I have a much better presentation. I see all of my KPIs, so I see the revenue, I see the costs, I see the gross profit, I have the comparison to plan, I have the comparison to previous year for this particular month, but also for the whole year-to-date period. Right, I could have even better would be if I had the forecast until the end of year, and then I would provide like a forecast for the full year at the end of the table here. That would be even better. And again, here you see this is again a small multiple. This one is really small because it has just 3 charts. But again, these are not just 3 charts, just placed on your dashboard. Because they are again completely scaled. I understand that my revenue is growing, right? But my gross profit is also growing, but it's like more or less half of my revenue. That's why this chart is, smaller, exactly 2 times smaller, right? This is pixel perfect scaling here, right? And then if the costs are growing, if the costs are growing, this is it's growth, right? But it has a negative impact, right? So the costs are bad. It's a bad KPI. So this one is kind of inverted, right? So these are also the some of the features of the Zebra BI visual, right? So you can actually like invert the meaning of a chart. So if it's a bad KPI, you can right click and invert it. And then now our visual will understand that this is a bad KPI. Okay, so all right, this was a run through one of the examples, and if I now just go back to my presentation, let's talk about a few details, right? The 7 mistakes as I promised. Okay, so number 1 for me would be bad choice of charts, mostly due to wrong chart orientation, but also just using wrong chart types for different for certain data sets, and just advanced charts completely missing, right? Let me explain what I mean by that. So the wrong chart orientation is by far the most frequent mistake in the reports and dashboards, Power BI reports and dashboards that I have seen across the world. By far number one. So if you fix this one, you know, you will fix almost half of your data visualization problems. So if you see pointer options, let's test my drawings drawing skills now. So if you see diagonally displayed labels, this is an indication that something is wrong with your chart. Okay. Why are they diagonal? Because of course they are long labels and they don't fit into the chart. So you have a couple of options. Make the font really small and people of course will not be able to read it. Okay, so keep your font you know, at a certain standard size, which would be for internet at least 12 points, at least. If it's bigger, the bigger the better. So this is not an option. And then of course you can make the chart really, really wide, but then this will consume a lot of space. So the only, you know, strategy left is to start rotating the labels, which is what I think probably all of the Power BI visuals do as a default, right? But it's actually an indication that your chart is wrong, okay? Because this chart has an axis that runs from left to right. So the axis of this chart is horizontal, okay? And you can simply, and by following a simple rule, which is use horizontal axis for time series only, and then for everything else, just turn the chart around and do it in a chart with a vertical axis. So this chart, if you just turn it around, instead of columns, you use bars. So you will have your axis going top to bottom, and then, you know, your bars will go like this, right? Just turn it around, right? You get my point. And I am really bad at drawing with my mouse here, but you see, just do it in this way and people will read it like this from top to bottom. And while you do that, sort the categories by a value, okay, which will result in a much better presentation here, and you will not have the problem with rotated labels, because now you can simply you know, display all the labels like this. All of the labels in your report, in your dashboard, should be displayed horizontally. So no rotating, not like this, not vertically, always horizontally, so I can normally read it without, you know, breaking my neck. All right. So this is number one chart problem. We'll talk about colors later. This is way too many colors. It's just, don't do this, please. Also, don't do this. This is way too many series in a stacked column chart. Way too many. You know, it's not even all the colors are written here in the legend for the categories, and it's just completely impossible to say anything intelligent about this data set here. So what is this data category actually? You know, is it you know, how is it performing? You know, no way for, you know, to draw any kind of conclusion from this chart. So stacked charts are tricky. If possible, break them up into small multiples. So instead of just stacking everything in one chart, try to place them, separate this into several multiple charts, or just simply use a table and then try to, or a matrix better, and try to present all of those categories in separate columns and try to visualize them. Okay, I'll give a few hints later on. But back to my point, this is number one problem in data visualization, wrong chart orientation. So turn the charts around, just remember this. If it's one thing that you'll remember from this talk, remember this, right? So time runs from left to right. So only if you have days, weeks, months, quarters, years, or date stamps and so on, a time series, left to right, everything else goes top to bottom, and you need to put them in charts with vertical axis. It's a very simple rule. And it will make your dashboards better like tomorrow if you do this. Just switch this type of chart, right? Especially if you have line charts, right? Because everybody now assumes that this is a kind of a trend, but it's not. It's just some promotion names. So it's a marketing report here. So this is kind of okay. So this is time series, but this chart is not really very actionable. We do see that it goes down, but that's it. Here again, the same problem, vertical axis labels, and again, horizontal axis, you need to turn it around like this. Okay, just don't do this again. All right. And again. So this just goes on and on. This is the most important dashboard mistake, I would say. Then next thing are the labels. Where are the labels? Okay, so as you see here, I don't have the data labels here, so it's empty. Of course, maybe report designers assume, all right, this is Power BI. This is actually the default in Power BI, right? So people will just go with their mouse over every little data category and wait for the tooltip to appear so they could read the label. But this is not how it works, because the consumers are managers or bosses, and so they don't have the time to explore with their mouse every little pixel in a dashboard and wait for the labels to pop up, and then then they go here, they move the mouse, and then they forget, oh, what was the label again? They need to go back, wait again for the tooltip, and so on. They don't have the time to do this, right? It's crazy. So you need to include some data labels. I don't claim that you need to put all of the data labels in, but a certain amount of data labels is needed, especially because exporting to PowerPoint, exporting to PDF and stuff like that is still unfortunately very popular, and people will just export this into a PDF, and then of course all the interaction is gone and you just see what you see, right? So another problem are the legends, right? The legends, we saw here a nice example of a terrible legend, right? So this is the legend, which is based on color coding principle, which is one thing that you should definitely avoid in your charts, to have a color legend and then assume that people will try to match the color from a legend to a certain series in a chart. This is extremely, it's kind of a visual VLOOKUP that people need to do, and it's been proven multiple times in the history, like in a previous century, that this is one of the most time-consuming and tiring operations for humans, right? And it's quite so don't do this. The legends, and here the legends are completely missing. I don't know what is this data category, this data category, this data category. So you should have a legend here. So the name of the data category, the value of the data category, and once you fix all this, then you just cancel the pie charts and replace them again with maybe simple bar charts like this. Or sometimes it's even better if you want to retain this idea of the message of the part to whole. So you know how much is this particular part to the whole value, to the total. Then use the waterfall chart. So it would then look like this. So this is a bar chart, but then you know it would be the next one. Actually, the first one should be, you should start with the biggest one and then just go the smallest one, right? And then this then results in a total like this, right? So this would be A, B, C, and the total at the end. So this is a good replacement for pie charts, okay? So this would be a vertical waterfall chart. Okay, so I mentioned poor labeling. This example, no labels at all. Then this example, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So for some reason, this chart has all the labels and with wrong data accuracy, right? Because it's just accurate to a million. And then you have labels like 1 million, 0 million, 0 million, 0 million, 1 million. Not good, right? So at least one decimal place here, please. Not too many decimals, right? I try to keep it to one decimal maximum, and then just see from the range of values, you know, whether you need to display this in millions, in K, or something else. And do not repeat this M, and dollar, right? So this is just these are just things that are repeated. So it's an unnecessary redundancy. Just make sure you put here in the title that this is, you know, in $1 million. In $1 million. This is going really bad. Or like million. Can I do this? Like million USD, just to make sure what kind of dollars this is. Well, just put this in the title, and then, you know, then you will have, instead of, you know, then you will save 2 characters in each column, right? Which means that you can now simply have like one, it's not even 1 million now, this is what, 0.6. So you'll have like 0.6 here, if it's in millions, right? And so on, right? So it's even shorter, but it's more exact. Okay, and now why this chart has the data labels and this one doesn't, I don't know. Only the author of this report knows this, but it's not good. You know, be consistent and, you know, put some labels in all of the charts. Okay, and then, you know, the extreme, the extreme on the other end, just all of the labels for every data point that you have in all of the charts, which is a temptation because your bosses will probably, or managers will probably want to see the labels there, and will say, I don't see how much is it, put the labels, but this is way too much, right? So that's just not every freaking label, please. Okay, so you need to strike the right balance. And of course, when you will fix your charts, you will not have a problem with the labels, right? So here the problem is the side-by-side chart, and then it's actually a combo chart with a line chart on top of the combo chart, and so on. But still there are no variances here. Okay. And maybe the last thing with the labels are actually quite important, I must say, and very tricky. So I'm spending some extra time on labels. Keep your labels short, okay? Fix your time dimension and make sure that you have a short month name in your time dimension. Don't use the default, you know, Power BI's time dimension, which is created automatically by default from your date field. Just disable that and create your proper time dimension. There are tons of tons of articles how you can do this in Power Query or in DAX. In DAX there's a simple formula, you can copy and paste it. I'll show you a few links at the end how you do that, and then you will have short month names in your time series, and then you will just write Jan, Feb, Mar, and so on. Everybody understands this, and all of these labels will be short. They will consume less space because they don't need to be tilted, rotated, right? And it results in much cleaner charts, which in turn results in much cleaner reports and dashboards. Number 3, inconsistent use of colors. Now, colors are tricky. Color is probably the hardest thing in data visualization. This here is way too many colors. Okay, this just keep a report page to maximum 4 or 5 different colors. Okay, maximum 4 to 5. Everything above that is not going to work. I explained this already. In stack charts, it does not work, and so on. But how do you solve this? I mean, here, if you have this tree map, you need to introduce certain color, right? But then if you just apply a different color for every different data point, it's basically just random assignment of a color. Power BI just goes there and will assign a color from your theme, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, based on the order of elements that appear on the chart. So even the next time that you will refresh this dashboard, the same color will be applied to a different element, because it will have a smaller or a bigger amount than the previous year, and the rank of the data points will change. The order of the data points will change, and they will just get, so it's a completely random color assignment, right? Which is not a good practice. A good practice is to be consistent and always use the same color for the same meaning. So that's the idea, right? So be consistent, use the same color for the same meaning, right? So for example, this dashboard is nice. It has a really nice theme and so on, but again, it's the same problem. You see this blue color here represents sales, and then in this chart, it represents just external something, and in this chart, it represents the business product category, as opposed to this purple thing that represents the coach, whatever that this is. But then again, this same purple color here means something completely different, mountain. Okay, and here it's internal and whatever, right? So again, this is problematic. It's not consistent. And then this one is interesting, the budget remaining, right? Again, this blue chart, which is okay, obviously the first chart in a color theme, so that's why most of the things are blue here. But this one has the budget remaining, which means how much budget are we still in the green, or are we in the red? Okay, so by saying in the red, make sure you actually color the negative changes in red, and then use green for this one. Okay, so use the red and green. If you're worried about if this is like a public thing and so on, if you worry about color deficiencies, then instead of red and green, use maybe blue and red, or blue and like kind of reddish, like warm red, slightly to orange or something, or make the green something between green and blue, right? So this will work better for people with color deficiency, and so it will be more accessible. But you know, in any case, make sure that you distinguish between positive variances and negative variances. All right, and if you follow this principle to the max, you will end up basically using more or less three colors. So this is one example that I showed before. This one actually has 4 colors, so more or less just the you know, the dark, the black thing here, and the variances, and another color for highlighting some important things. So this one is very, very functional, I would say. And then it uses, but then here I'm using a different trick, I would say. So for example, this is the actual sales. This is the actual, so this is sales in US dollars, right? 22.1 million, but this was actual sales. Here, I'm using plan. So this is a waterfall chart, and it explains the, you know, the development of my plan versus actual. So my plan was 23.1 million, and then I have all the changes for every month, and then this is my total change here. So I was 4.7% below the plan. But you see, because plan is something completely different than actual, I need to use a different visual variable to explain this fact, right? So most of the people would just use a different color, right? So you would have a plan would be purple and the actual sales would be blue, right? But you don't have to do this. You can maybe use keep the same color, and instead of this, just provide a different shape. Okay, so in my case, I'm using like this, the border for the plan. It's like an outline, and then my actual sales, for example, is a column that is full, right? So it has a feel applied to it, right? Which is sort of intuitive, right? Because if you think about the plan, right? The plan is like an outline that you set for the next year, and then you have to fill it up with your actuals. So it's intuitive. It's not just random. Why would plan be purple, right? Or why would actuals be blue? There's no. So try to think of intuitive colors assignments, right? Water is blue, right? But actual sales, is this blue or not, or something? I don't know. I think not, right? But this idea of having a plan as a frame and then fill it up with actuals, it's intuitive. So people will just adjust it to, get adjusted to this. They will understand it, and then next time they see it, and if you use it consistently in every chart, on every page of every report that every user in your company is doing, if you can achieve that, then you will deliver consistent dashboards that have consistent shapes and colors and so on. And this is most importantly in every company, to sort of try to get on the same page with everybody, and use same color definitions and styles and so on. So it's kind of, for me, it's a kind of a governance, right, in the reporting and on the front end side. And I think it's actually one of the most important things that contributes to the dashboards and reports being understandable to the end users. Okay. But just in general, start with neutral, desaturated colors, or even no color at all. Just use gray as a gray color as a default, and then use saturated, strong colors for variances, for the changes, because the changes are the most important things in your reports and dashboards, right? So they can be black, they can be, blue, but saturated blue or something like that, just not red by default or something like that, because you do want the variances to stand out, the changes, the highlights, and things like that, right? Only then will my attention be on this part, on the changes. Okay. Good. Yeah, which brings me to my point number 4. Showing variances or not showing variances. This dashboard failed because it did not have any kind of variances, no comparison to plan, no comparison to previous year. Most of the people in Power BI would put stacked columns for comparisons. So how do they do comparison in Power BI? I think number 1 attempt is just do a stacked by, so the stacked, sorry, not stacked, side-by-side column chart. So you put your, whatever this is, you see blue, what is blue? All right, sales, actuals, that's blue. And then the target, or sometimes the previous year, is yellow. Okay, and then you have this side-by-side chart, and now no matter what the numbers are telling me, I will always see half of this page will always be blue, and the other half will be yellow. No matter what the situation is, you know, I will change the period, I will refresh my page, half of the things are blue, half of the things are yellow. But what I actually want to see are the gaps. The gaps between this. So this is the only really important part here. This is where my attention should be focused, right? Actually, this one should be green, right? Because this is more than the target, right? But in certain areas, all right, this is important. Why didn't I see this before? Because nobody colored it in red for me, right? So the gaps are important, which means those variances, you need to explicitly put them into all of your reports and dashboards and so on. Like for example, first of all, you need to add the variance calculations into your model, and then provide charts that will display this, and again use some conditional formatting to put this into red and green. All right, point number 5, confusing dashboard layouts and interaction. I actually presented this I think before in a Power BI example. So don't use all of those slicers. Okay, this screenshot is not fair because it's not an actual designed report, but I do see things like this. You know, like you have the states here, and it's just a list, it's a slicer. Why doing this? Because if you can actually replace this with a chart that will on top of just listing the countries, provide, for example, sales for those countries, and this chart will serve as a filter anyway. Right, the basic concept of Power BI is everything gets filtered. So a chart actually functions as a filter in a way, right, for the end user, right? So just do a chart. Make sure that all of your content are charts, and then the slicers and filters are really small. Okay. Yeah, and then try to use, this is the idea that I presented before in my demo. So in a dashboard, when you structure your dashboards, just think about it, just simplify this into 2 major page categories of pages, right? The first one is the landing page, where people will land, or home pages, right, where they need to have some basic, you know, the most important KPIs, and then quick explanations around them, you know, like basically breakdowns by different categories and so on. And then through this content, they go to a detailed report page, you know, analyze the situation, and then provide some way to go navigate back. So provide a button to go back. Okay. I will share actually these things. I'm mindful of time now. All
You've
right.
got a captive audience, mate. We're all in lockdown here. We can't go anywhere anyway.
All right. So I think this was already an hour, right? So let me bring this to an end. I have a couple of points, and I would like to show a few things in Power BI still. Okay, so number 6 and 7, right? It's more or less connected. No scaling concept. That's a problem. So if you just put separate visuals on a dashboard, you will have this problem of scaling, because, for example, I have these 7 KPI cards or whatever here. Yeah, and the gauges. Thanks, Jeff. The gauges here. And here, I mean, this is so problematic. The gauges, again, I will see just, half of this bar will be like, yellow, and this one will be, again, here, I need to see the gap. This gap and this gap. The size of the gap, that's what matters, right? And is the gap empty, or is, the sales above the line, right? So this is important. And but this size, how important, what is the actual impact, it's very tricky, because, for example, this one looks very similar to this one. Not just because it has yellow in both gauges, but it's, below the plan. This one looks much more problematic. There's a bigger gap here. But this one is, this one is 400,000, and this one is 49. So it's almost 10 times, or let's say 8 times less important. Okay, it's clearly a problem. So this one, if you had the scaling concept, this gap here should be like 10 times, like it should go here. So this is a problem in Power BI, and it's actually I think right now the major problem of Power BI. It has absolutely no scaling concept within the whole product, right? There are no small multiples. That's being this will be changed, I guess, in the future. But even not just that, there's absolutely no way how to communicate between the visuals in Power BI. So there's no concept about that. The only thing that you can do is maybe do really hard DAX tricks, and then somehow do a chart trick to put that DAX measure into the chart and so on. Okay, so instead of this, do a small multiple. You see, I explained the small multiples before, and which in turn will increase your information density. So the small multiples are probably the best data visualization method to increase the information density in your dashboards. But also this point here, embed charts into tables, right? Which is my last maybe a recommendation, right? The world of reporting is not like separated charts versus tables, and then you have table people who want to see all the numbers and they're fine with tables, and then you have data viz people who hate those guys and want everything in charts, right? Many times doing a combination of both, like embedding charts into tables, bringing the two worlds together, is actually the best idea, right? Okay, so here's Edward Tufte on small multiples for a wide range of problems in data presentation. The small multiples are the best possible solution. So I showed you this one, the small multiples. I'll just switch to Power BI and show you this stuff in live, I guess. And this is not just in financial reports or sales reports or something. This is for example how we internally look at our website traffic and things like that. So it's completely marketing analysis. Like I see our website traffic for each for each channel, where's the source of it, and is it growing or not, and so on. And so I don't know how many charts I have here, but it's like 16, so it's 20, more than 20 charts on one page, right? I'm quite happy about this. All right, and this is the second part, the second point in my increase the data information density. This is a table, but it's actually, it combines charts. You see, you can do this by using the conditional formatting in the matrix visual, or just use Zebra BI visuals that have all these principles embedded inside. Okay, so this is the wrap up. These were the top 7 features that I tried to present today. Let me show the let me share the resources. I've done a lot of webinars. Actually, if you find these topics like interesting, do go to our website, especially this page here. If you go to our website, is zebrabi.com, okay, and you'll find all the links. I have a lot of PBIX examples that you can download, including the dashboard that I showed at the beginning, right? So just navigate to our website and you'll find the help page for the Power BI, and then the webinars page actually has 22 hours of recorded webinars. There are 1-hour sessions on the topics of data visualization, dashboarding, reporting, tricks, DAX tricks, things like that. And if you like the visuals, the Zebra BI visuals are on the App Stores. And the good news is they are, the basic version of the Zebra BI visuals is free. So you can actually do small multiples already with the Zebra BI visuals. And you can do the integrated variance charts and the stuff that I was showing. A lot of that you can actually do with a completely free version. So just go to the App Stores and search for Zebra BI, and you'll get 2 visuals. There are 2 visuals. The one for tables or matrix table chart combinations. The other one is for charts and small multiples. The basic version is free, and then there's a completely full advanced version, which is a paid version. This is actually how we try to make our living by selling the licenses. But it's not expensive, so it's a. All right. Okay. I'm done with.
We've got some great questions. Thanks for the presentation. My thoughts on Zebra BI is that it's essentially like having a whole bunch of report devs in a box. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than hiring me to do it, that's for sure.
Thanks, Jeff. Some
of our questions were, how do you work out what should go on that main page versus into the detail pages? How do you get that balance right? I mean, I'm looking at your stuff here and it looks deceptively simple, right? But there's obviously a lot of work has gone into thinking what goes where.
That's a great question. It's not an easy. There's no formula. There's no formula. So the basic frame of mind, I guess, is put the KPIs here on the top left part, and there are a couple of ways, and it depends on your end users as well. So, for example, this is a very, very simplified version. This is probably too simple for most of the projects, real projects that I was involved in or as a consultant. So let me show you. Do I have another example open? Consolidated functions. Sorry, too many things. So this would be like this would be another example. It follows sort of the same principle. So I have a visual that displays all of the most important KPIs. This is more of a financial report, and this one was done for more senior management, right? So now it's number one are the end users. Who is the end user? Is this like the management board of a company? If so, then make a serious, make a really good KPI comparison. So in my case here, I have the most important KPIs EBITDA, EBIT, net earnings, free cash flow, capex, and so on. And I have this for month to date. So for the month of April, I have this for the year to date, because those guys always want to see, current period, month to date, and if possible, add the forecast. Add the forecast here and display also the forecast for the full year compared to the plan or the budget for the full year, right? So like the top management or the financial guys will love this. And it's like a full presentation of all the KPIs in one visual. So this is basically a table, right? A table that is structured. So if you're doing this in Zebra BI, this would be the basic table. It has the KPIs here. So these are just unpivoted measures, basically, here, put into rows. And then I have the comparison, actual versus forecast versus plan. Then I have the, the deltas, the variances, which you can present either as a table, but I would, or, and then you visualize like, this one, either the relative changes or the absolute changes. Let's just decide, maybe this one or the absolute deltas here. I would probably go to something like this. And yeah, and then put all your period options into this, just group by this so that you get, all the period options that are important for the people. And then how do you decide what to put around it? You see here, I actually sacrificed the detail, and I just did, presented the, some of the KPIs in, I presented the time trend. And this time the time trend is not just up until this, oh, it should not be minus, sorry. It just goes up until the current month, and then for the rest of year, I have the forecast. Okay, so these charts here, again, these are Zebra BI visuals. First of all, they are grouped. So this is how you get the small multiples. So instead of just one big chart, put more information. This is too much space for one chart. So I had what by KPI. I think I had some accounts here. So just do a grouping here so that you get, more charts, and then maybe filter out some of them if you don't need all the data elements. Yeah, so these will be the trends, and here you see, instead of having all charts, I actually decided to put comments inside, because this is the, top management, senior management, and so on. They don't have any slicers. The only slicer that they have is, they can change the month, and this is actually then done automatically, more or less. So, it's senior management. They don't want to click and so on. Most of them probably get this in a PDF anyway, right? So, but it's senior management. But if you have more operational reports with younger folks and so on, then, you can go with a little bit more slicers and so on. But do the top end. So that would be on the first page. Do the top end. Right. So for example, the sorting. Let me select this one.
So in other words, prioritize ruthlessly what you're going to show.
Prioritize ruthlessly, like a really good like a thought experiment is, imagine that you don't have all of those pixels. Imagine that you have a really tiny mobile phone, cell phone, which can only display one number. All right, that's your dashboard. You only have this tiny little phone, right? So which number is most important of all of this stuff? You have to decide on just one. You don't have any space, right? Is it is it the net earnings? Is it which KPI? Is it the actual value for month or for the year-to-date period for this particular person who will see this, right? and this is how you prioritize things. And then maybe you will see, all right, it's probably the year-to-date this, or maybe it's even a forecast, right? Or maybe it's the delta. Are we on the plan or not? Is it a percentage or not? And this will give you, all right, this is the most important number. Okay, and then once you have this, all right, now you've got a bigger phone and now you have place for two numbers, and just go like this, and then start go from this one cell cell phone to a full dashboard, and then just build the dashboard from top left down to the detail around it. Yeah.
Speaking of phones, Andrej, David Wilson from our user group wants to know how these Zebra BI charts work on mobile.
Very nicely.
Did they render okay on mobile?
Oh yeah, very nicely, because they have this kind of information density principle, and you can and even those things like mobile is actually a slightly more extreme version. You're even more limited, right, on mobile. So it's even more important that you do things like this. So for example, the top N, right? So this chart, a normal person would probably do so I have like the categories. Now I'll just switch this to off. Oh, not so many products here anyway. This is only the product category, right? But imagine that this was a product or a product group. Let's see. You see, this will be a typical blah 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 blah. And you see what happens every time. Certain products are absolutely more important than the others, and you will have some products that contributed the most to the plan here. Or if I switch this from the waterfall chart to a regular bar chart, you see here it's something, but most of the data elements, like it's a Pareto rule. 80% of your data elements will contribute to the 20% of real value, right? So they are not so important. You see, it's 0, 0, 0. If it's on the plan, it's boring. We knew this in advance, so it's not important. What is interesting are those guys here, right? So you need to, if you now just enable the filter, like here I can now switch to, in this case, because it's a variance, I'm interested in the best variance and also the least, the bad guys, right? So that's why I'll do the top plus bottom and by the absolute difference, right? And then you just, okay, how much space do I have? If it's a dashboard, I can jam maybe top 10, but then everything else is summed into this others. Okay, so I still get the total. Right? Which is quite important. This is something that you cannot really do in Power BI. I mean, you can do the filter, top end filter, but then you need to calculate somehow the others and then put the totals separately, right? So this is where Zebra BI is kind of more just, you just click and you get this.
This is what you get for your money. It's an investment.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody else, Jerry Ball from our user group talks about, asks a little bit more about how widely is IBCS understood, the visualization framework that you're using to build your dashboards on. Could you talk quickly about IBCS?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The principles that I presented today are recommended by the IBCS, which stands for International Business Communication Standards. I've been involved heavily in that community since 2006, actually. So it started as a German standard. So most of the German companies, bigger German companies, have adopted this standard years ago, actually. Companies like Daimler and so on, even our users that have Power BI and are using Zebra BI visuals are a lot of bigger German companies like Daimler, Bosch, Henkel, BASF, and so on. But then there are others. I mean, even Microsoft is using, for example, our visuals in certain teams already for performance management, for dashboards, and so on. And Facebook is our client, and others. So I would say it's spreading. It's still predominantly adapted in German and Swiss companies, like Swatch, for example, is another company that is using IBCS and is using our visuals. So German-speaking companies have mostly adopted it, but now it's spreading around the world. So so it's and the adoption is really is very good, I must say, especially with business units. People who are not very friendly are mostly people, mostly, for example, I would say IT developers and so on, who just think, all right, maybe this color is boring and so on. But the IBCS does not, for example, prescribe the black color or something. I mean, it recommends that you start with a desaturated color, really. So you can have blue charts and you're still IBCS compliant if you follow other rules like the scaling, the consistent labeling, and the variances and so on. This variance is scaled to this one, right? It's just automatically being scaled.
There was a fantastic quote I saw today on Twitter from Alberto Cairo saying, "Data isn't about rules, it's about reasons." Yeah, and I love that quote.
Yeah. I mean, there are several layers, right? There are several layers. You know, you have the perception layer, which is about, you know, the perception of shapes and colors and so on. So, and here I think, you know, there are more or less, there are very simple rules. You know, don't use 3D, use 2D, and so on, right? What type of shapes work for certain situations, when to use, which charts to use for a certain message and so on. But this is still the basic data visualization layer, right? This is what we call the perceptual layer, right? But then on top of that, you have the semantic layer and the conceptual layer, which are much more tricky, like this question, you know, what exactly to put on the first page. That's actually it's a harder problem, and here you cannot give a rule. You can give some guidelines and some best practices, but ultimately it depends on the people and so on. But when you go down to basic decisions about chart shapes and colors and so on, I actually believe, you know, you can stick to a set of simple rules, and you'll do a good job.
Indeed. I had one other question for you from myself. Would you mind clicking on your question mark and showing us the help layer of your report again? Because that looked amazing.
Yeah, this is how is this done? It's actually this is a button. This is a simple button, and this is the only, I think, the only page in my whole career where I have used the bookmarks. So I do have a few bookmarks here. So when you click here, I just toggle a few elements here. So you see, I have this thing here. It's a group that consists of this little circle here, and what is this? It could have been an image that I inserted into my dashboard, but there's only one caveat. If you insert an image, and then you put an image into your dashboard, you'll find out that Power BI image element cannot play animated GIFs. So in my case, this is an animated GIF image, but but this element is actually not an image. It really is a chart. And this is just a dirty hack, a dirty workaround. If you're interested, I'll show you which. I just had a webinar when I explained exactly those tricks, how to do this step by step. But the basic trick is not to use the image. Instead use any of the native charts, for example, stacked column chart. Then go to plot area, and then do an image. You see here, add an image, add an image. Where do I have those images now? Animated GIFs, voila. Animated GIF. Of course, you need to.
It's nice to see you've got photos of me and Phil on your computer, by the way.
Yeah. I had them ready. If you wanted me to put on the charts, I was ready for everything. So you see, you just put the image into the plot area of a chart, and for some reason this works, and now the animated GIFs are playing inside a native visual, right? You can also play animated GIFs in certain other like custom visuals and so on, but this is just a hack how you use the native visuals to display animated GIFs, and then just clean everything else and just, you know, have the title for this. Then this trick. So basically, then here I have another thing. I actually overlay a huge rectangle, which is not a rectangle. It's not like insert and shapes and rectangle, but it's actually a huge button. It's a huge button. And why? So it's a button that has a fill, that has a background, like it's grayish, and it's, you know, a little bit transparent, right? So you see, it's simply a gray button, and it's slightly transparent. But the thing, why button? Because this huge rectangle, huge button now has an action to put to invoke the bookmark that has this whole info overlay hidden. So which means that the user can simply click anywhere to close the thing. So I can not only click here. Now I have changed the order, but you know, you can just click anywhere. So that's how it works. So I basically just toggle between a few bookmarks, and these are the only 3 bookmarks that I'm using in my in this whole dashboard. Everything else, this is a native slicer, for example. So don't use buttons. Don't use buttons and bookmarks to change dynamically change the content of your visuals. This will result in a nightmare. First, you'll be developing your dashboards you know, for days, and then you will maintain them for days. For any kind of change, you'll have to go through all the bookmarks and so on. So I would recommend using bookmarks only for those for these info overlays. For everything else, use Dextrix. Like this is a regular slicer in Power BI. It's a normal slicer in Power BI, but I'm using certain DAX that will just change the measure in my measure. So I have like a generic measure which I just simply call AC for actual, and it just evaluates, you know, what is the selection in this slicer. So just using switches and disconnected tables in slicers. But you can use disconnected, the calculation groups if you're on premium, and soon calculation groups will be also in Power BI desktop.
Fantastic. So we'll record this. We'll upload this webinar. I'll link to this webinar on the Meetup group, and I'll send it out via Twitter. But I just want to thank you very much for taking the time and getting up early and sharing your dashboards with us. I'm always amazed when I see Zebra BI custom visuals. They're like nothing else I've ever seen. I spend a lot of time trying to replicate half of, or even 1/10 of the stuff you're doing in DAX. I don't get close, but my clients pay me a lot for the privilege of not getting close. If they just subscribe to a couple of Zebra BI licenses, my mortgage would be much bigger than it is.
Yeah.
So kudos to you and to the team. There's nothing else like it out there. I'd gladly wear this anywhere, mate. I love it.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for inviting me. So yeah, it's a difference. It's a difference. So let me show you. This is one chart, and then, you know, just throw in the business unit. Voila, and you have it. That's it. And it's scaled, and you know, and it solves even harder problems, like real problems, like with scaling, which is, you know, most of the folks in their business, they have one business unit or a product that is a major one, and then everything else is dwarfed right? So Zebra BI will do things like reserve more cells in this matrix for a bigger unit, and then we'll just split this into two, you see. So you have two charts here in the same row, and crazy things like that. So this is what we do. It's what we deliver, and hopefully, yeah. Try the visuals, play around with them.
At the moment, that one category is masks, which is unfortunate, but you know, there'll be a lot of mask sales dominating some dashboards of some companies at the moment. Thank you very much. Cool. Stay safe, Andre, and all our listeners. Appreciate you all signing on.